All right. Good afternoon out here in the East Coast where I am, and today I'm going to pick up from where I left off yesterday on the streaming of the SAT EBRW, right, the evidence-based reading and writing, or the reading and writing sections. Okay, so yesterday I was feeling a little not great. I was feeling not great. I'm a little better today. So I felt that I was being extremely wordy and a little jumbled in my speech. So it was sort of my call to be like, just, okay, let's stop and actually do this when I'm at a better condition. And today I think it should go better. So my goal today is to at least get through all of the reading, if not also the writing, starting from the third passage of the reading test. So I'm about to get into that right now, just sort of like idly scrolling around while I'm talking, but that's slightly distracting. Let's get into the reading itself. So I did up till question 20-ish, like wherever. Yeah, so 21 is where the science starts over here. So let's get in there. And I'm going to read this. Passage again. Okay, so it's been what, 2-3 weeks since I last read this, so I'm starting this one more time. I'll be giving a few tips on how to read, but nothing in depth, at least not in this video. Okay, just like basic ideas as they occur to me. So, okay, here's the passage. Let's go. Let me zoom in a little, and I remember that there's something slightly awkward with the the camera being here, so I'm going to move the camera down so that when we look at the questions that it doesn't collide. Okay, let's zoom in. Here we go. Social systems in fishes. Concepts in evolutionary ecology. Suppression. Okay, so there's social systems and then there's reproductive suppression, as in the decrease of reproduction, the decrease of maybe making little baby fishes. So when adults are prevented from breeding. Okay, right. Oh, and I think there were like three reasons or something like that, right? Isn't that basically it? This is the one with like the 3 hypotheses about why they have reproductive suppression or something like that, and kind of identifying which one is which. But by the way, even if you never read this passage before, and I read this 2 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, but even if you've never read this before, you should basically be doing the same thing I just did, okay? I'm doing it with the benefit of hindsight, but you can do this without hindsight, reading for the very first time, and be like, I wonder what this passage would be about. And then you're finding out that we're talking about fishes, okay, fish, and social systems, and some prevention of breeding babies, okay? So you would probably be like, okay, there's going to be some investigation of why they're being prevented from making babies. So maybe it's a pollution thing, maybe it's environmental science thing. You know, that's a guess. You should make a guess. Like, if you were to write something like this, what kinds of things would you write about? Maybe because of the word social systems, maybe it has something to do with declining female or male populations, or competition for like sexual competition, you know, maybe, or maybe predatory behavior, right? Those are hypotheses that if you have a scientific mind, you should be able to come up with very, very quickly. Okay, if it's taking you longer than 30 seconds to come up with at least one possible hypothesis, then I don't think you're reading as much science as most other kids who are getting an 800. Okay. Other kids who are getting an 800, they've read enough science, they've thought enough about science that they can come up with these hypotheses on their own really quickly. And for them, it's almost automatic. They don't even think about it, right? Or they don't intentionally think about it. It just sort of comes out without even trying. Okay, and right now, if you're not at that level, well, you probably can't go and read 1,000,000 pages on biology right now. But what you can do is you can start forcing yourself. What might this be about? What kinds of things could this be about? Take 5 seconds. Take 10 seconds. Social systems, fishes, reproductive suppression, prevented from breeding, ... and then take 10 seconds. Come up with an idea and then move on. Okay? Do that. I guarantee you that's going to make the reading much, much smoother for you. Just do that. Just those 10 seconds after the blurb. Now let's move in. PX. So I see hard words. Coral dwelling goby. Okay, so it's a type of fish, right? No, it's a type of coral. No, it resides in coral, so it's a fish. And goby is a type of fish. So PX is a type of fish. Only the largest PX, male and female, breed monogamously. All of the other ones are suppressed. Cool. This already gives me for me, I immediately, these two words over here, social systems and reproductive suppression, they sort of like, if you have to imagine it visually, they sort of like glowed. Okay, when I was reading this part right here of only the largest male and female breed, okay, and then the others are non-breeding subordinates, right? When I read those parts, it's like, social systems, reproductive suppression. I immediately draw that connection right away. Okay, if you're not doing that, there's something that's going off in your reading, like literally from the first 30 seconds of the passage. Okay, that's not a good thing. I would be hard pressed to find a teacher who would read these two sentences and not connect them immediately. So when I say teacher, I mean a good reader. I would be hard pressed to find a good reader that doesn't immediately connect those ideas. If you are not connecting those ideas, you are behind right now. Now we move on to determine whether resource limitation was the cause of. Okay. So you might notice I just shook my head a little bit because resource limitation might be the underlying cause. Okay, so it's like, so the sort of implicit question is why do only the largest ones breed? Why don't the sort of middle-sized ones breed? And then maybe one reason is not some sort of weird social hierarchy thing that's just totally arbitrary, but maybe because there's resource limitation. Okay, so now my prediction is changing on. At first, I thought maybe this passage would be more about the social interactions between the fish, but actually maybe it looks like we're going to focus more on the resource limitation that determines the social interactions that makes the subordinates not breed. Okay. So my prediction keeps changing in the first paragraph because I keep updating to kind of know what the end will be even before I even read the end. Okay, here we go. 3 key resources. Okay, now, and see, that definitely automatically helps. Now I already know how basically, at this point, I can almost predict the rest of the structure of the passage. We're going to explore the 3 resources, and then we're going to identify which one or which ones of them are relevant. Okay, so, and in fact, for this one, I feel so confident, I feel like we could just jump to this in summary thing, and then has demonstrated that resource limitation does underline suppression and female competition, and that already gives me my answer right there. Okay, and yes, on the real test, I actually might jump. Just because I already got it. I kind of understand the structure right away. Now, I don't think all students are able to do this on their own. Okay, I don't think all students are able to do this on their own, but I guarantee you, if you get 10 students who got an 800 on the EBRW, okay, I guarantee you 9 out of them all noticed the word cause. Okay, so the words resource limitation, the word cause, and then they noticed the 3 key resources. All, like 9 out of 10 of them would have seen all of that, and then they would have sort of resolved this question in their own head. Okay, what's the question? Oh, why is it that social systems are connected to preventing subordinates from breeding, right? And then it's like, oh, this essay, this little research summary is going to explore 3 possible reasons. And then they're gonna, that tension that they have, okay? The tension that they have about not knowing, the sort of anxiety, anxiety is maybe too strong, but the sort of general tension that they're feeling from not knowing how the passage will end, they're gonna relieve that tension by line 10. Okay, 9 out of 10 of them will. It's my prediction. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm more or less correct about the kids who are getting 800s on the EBRW. Okay, so if you, by the way, and maybe some of you are doing pretty good on the reading, if you read the first 10 lines and after reading the 10 lines, you sighed a relief, right? I mean, not maybe literally sighed, but like your heart got a little bit less tense, okay, when you were actually reading it. Come and share your experience, okay? Share your experience and kind of prove that I'm right by leaving a comment below, because I'm curious if that actually happened for you guys. Now, let's go into 3 reasons. First, and perfect, so easy to organize, right? So the topic is hard and the words are hard, but at least it's so cleanly organized. Okay, so we have first we have storage of sites to rear. Okay, so basically kindergartens. We don't have enough kindergartens. Because it has to be within the colony, the coral colony. Remember the coral from up here? The SH, okay? So that's the first one. Maybe we don't have enough kindergartens. Number 2, I scrolled down too much. Coming back up, number 2, maybe it's limited by food. Maybe we don't have enough food, given that female fecundity. And for me, immediately that makes some sense, because you know how it's only the largest male and female? Maybe the female is large because she's the one who gets to eat all the food. Okay? So that's just me making an additional hypothesis in my own head as I'm reading. Yes, this is the kind of thing that literally is occurring to my mind as I'm actually reading it for the first time. Okay? In this stream, obviously I already read this 2 weeks ago, but if you go back and watch me stream some of the QASs that I've never seen in my life before, you'll notice I'm doing the same thing. Third, paternal care. Okay. Yeah, maybe there's not enough. That's kind of close to the kindergarten one, actually, because the kindergarten is the sites, the locations to rear them, but then the third is like the teachers, the caretakers, right? The father being around to help them, which I don't know. It seems similar to me, but whatever. I mean, it's actually, but they are pretty distinct. So those are 3 possible reasons. Okay, let's keep going. So I think at this point, everyone should already know basically what the structure of the passage is going to be. Okay, I'm actually going to give you 10 seconds to think of a sentence, okay, to answer this question. What is the author going to talk about next? Take 10 seconds, answer the question in your own head right now, okay, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this later on as a review. Okay, here's my answer. Basically, the author is going to talk about which one of these or which ones of these are relevant, are predictive. Have predictive power. Okay, which ones of these actually determine the reproductive suppression? So we're gonna kind of check them all off one by one. Now that's my prediction, and by the way, I'm also using my memory in this case, but in real time, you should be able to predict this as well. To determine, so we're going into experiment design right now. This is the experiment design, and they removed the, and it's the first one. It's for the sites. It's for the kindergartens, okay? How many kindergartens do we have? And they removed all of the sites. And in that case, they actually just replaced it with a different site. So that suggests that it's not that's a 2-sentence summary of the research for the first one. To determine whether food was limiting, field experiments was performed when they were fed by squirting high protein stuff using a syringe. And after 3 weeks, they were collected and they were compared between those who were fed and not fed. Yeah, and naturally when you are fed, you lay significantly larger clutches. Okay, so clutch size, clutches. Now, I remember when I was reading this 2 weeks ago for the first time, I saw the word clutch and I was like, oh, a clutch of eggs? It's like because I hadn't taken biology in a long time, so that sounded kind of distant, right? But that's like, that sounds roughly right? Yeah, a clutch of eggs, like lots of eggs. So, if you don't know, you just have to use vocab from context, but there we go. Larger clutches, which, yeah, of course, if you eat more, you would probably lay more eggs. So that's literally a 2-sentence summary of the second factor. And the second factor is actually useful. In the same experiment, okay, and it seems like this is all one experiment. Or no, it's 2 experiments, okay. So it's 1, 2, and 3 but is like A, B, and B basically. So it's like 2 experiments. In the same experiment, they also determined whether paternal care was limiting by collecting the clutches prior to hatching, and then the males provide the sole care of the eggs. Oh no, because they provide sole care, the size effect. At hatching. Hang on. Oh, I see. Because we're talking about laying versus hatching. Okay. So, and I actually remember that I had to make this connection earlier. Because for me, laying and hatching were synonymous. And I had to actually separate the 2 ideas. So you'll notice that when I read, I don't always read downwards only. I sometimes read upwards. I go back up to be like, hey, what's this thing that I'm confused by? And this is actually something I notice a lot of students do not do. Okay, a lot of students, a lot of you guys, when you get stuck on something, you're slowing down. Okay, you're slowing down here. What happens oftentimes is your eyes stay roughly in this area that you slowed down on. Okay, so basically you're reading pretty quickly over here, and then if you're just following my mouse right now, you can see my mouse, right, and my mouse cursor. And then you slow down on this sentence, and what most students do is they actually just reread this sentence over. Okay, they reread this a second time, and then they sometimes reread it a third time. And some of you guys who are less time sensitive for some reason read it 4 times and 5 times. You read it over and over again. Okay, and then what happens is you go, I guess I'm just dumb, and then you move on. If this were a class, I would say raise your hand if you've ever done that. But this is not a class, so you tell me in the comments below if you've ever done that. It's like you just move on. Do you know how dumb that is, guys? Look at what I did. Did you see what I did? I slowed down, and I didn't even reread it. I was reading just really slowly. I was like, provide sole care of the eggs, and then I jumped up to the word since, and then I said, oh, this means because, right? So then I corrected myself, and then I continued at hatching, and then I finished this sentence, but it didn't feel fully complete in my head. You know why? Because for me, hatching and laying was the same idea, okay, at that moment. And I was like, something's bothering me. And then what's the first thing I did? I didn't just reread the sentence again. I went up, and then I went over here. Over here, and I saw this part. They laid clutches, and then I connected it to the males provide the care of the eggs. So that means after the eggs are laid, then the males take care of the eggs, and then they hatch, okay? Now, some of you guys would not have had the same problem as me. Some of you guys will not have combined the idea of laying and hatching into one, just because you're more scientifically literate than me, and you're more naturally, you separate those ideas much faster than me, just because that's the kind of stuff you like to read. I don't tend to read so much in the biological sciences. I tend to read more in literature and social science and history, right? So that's kind of, and like economics and stuff. But it just made me a little slower. Here, I'm not trying to focus too much on whether laying and hatching is the same idea. Of course they're not. I'm not talking about biology right now. I'm talking about reading. And when you're reading in a field that you're not super literate in, okay, then you tend to have these kinds of issues. For you, it might be science. For you, it might be literature. For you, it might be history. Whatever it is, okay. When you like clump ideas together that need to be separated. When you are clumping ideas together that need to be separated, please don't just reread the sentence like 5 times in a row. That's like stupid. It's such a bad use of your time. Don't do that. Moving on. So, yeah, of course, if the males are the ones taking care of the eggs, and then more hatch, okay, that means that the males are having. Oh, no. Hang on. If the males don't make a difference, whether they were fed eggs or unfed eggs, then basically the males are not a resource limitation. Okay, so it's the logic of this, the scientific logic here. So if they did not hatch significantly larger clutches than the males in the unfed pairs, despite the fed pairs laying larger clutches, this would mean that the males are unable to care for the eggs laid by more than one female under natural circumstances. Oh, I see. This is actually a little different from my prediction. Okay, so over here, I saw the word therefore, and I didn't even fully read this whole part. I was just sort of predicting what the logic was, but this actually is going the other way. It's like maybe there's a sort of natural limit to how many eggs one male can take care of, which also makes sense to me. It was different from my prediction. So cancel the last 30 seconds of everything I said. Indeed, there was no difference in the clutch size. Okay, perfect. Which means that, yes, males also limit the reproductive resource. Cool. So there's breeding suppression. Why? Because of food, and because there might not be enough food, and also because, the male fish, they're just only able to handle a certain natural limit. Okay, doesn't matter how well you feed them. Even if you feed all the female fish like luxurious buffet meal all the time, and they're bounteous with eggs, you need to have a corresponding increase in males to be able to increase the amount of eggs that are hatched. In summary, yes, these two, at least 2 out of 3 2 out of 3 resource limitations suppresses the reproduction. Therefore, okay, and by the way, I'm being very careful now because I'm seeing a logical extension to a new idea because of the word therefore, and this kind of stuff is very useful to pay attention to because you want to know the structure of the passage, because sometimes they ask you questions about that. So, new insight into mating system theory. So this is implications, okay? Implications. Since these experiments, we've actually seen similar resource limitation in social mammals, not just fish. And so maybe this could be a widespread explanation for for reproductive suppression in general, in social species in general, not just fish, not just mammals, but in all social systems, in all social species. Okay, so this is an expansion of the scope. Okay, these are implications for the larger scope of things. Okay, so yeah, let's get into the graph, the figure real quick, the chart really quickly. Let me zoom in more because it's really hard to read. Okay. Mean. So I'm actually trying my hardest to just ignore. I'm basically ignoring the chart itself, and I'm actually just reading this part and this part, which, by the way, not a lot of students do. A lot of students go straight into the graph first, and then they kind of like create the meaning afterwards, which I personally think is inefficient. Okay, I think our brains are such monkey brains that they want to go straight to the images, like images, images, right? But like the thing is that it makes you dumber and makes you much more likely to make a dumb interpretation mistake, because you're going to start making, because you have no information yet when you're only looking at the black and the white here. You're going to start making assumptions about what it means. So I strongly recommend resisting the temptation to just go straight into this, and then reading 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 this backwards. I want you literally to go the other way around. Go the other way around, okay? And try to fill it in while predicting. Just like with the reading over here. You're predicting what's going to happen in the next paragraph, etc. You're predicting what's going to happen in the conclusion. Here, you should be predicting what's going to happen in the graph itself, okay, as you understand the stuff around the graph. So mean egg clutch size laid by females and hatched by males and unfed and fed, PX. Mean egg clutch size laid by females and hatched by males. So obviously you would have larger mean egg clutch sizes when there's a lot of when they are fed, when there's more food, but not necessarily more when there's the same amount of men. Okay, the same amount of males. So the same number of males, I mean. Okay, so here's the number of eggs. This is the size of the clutches, and then here's the treatment, and then they are laid by females, and then they're hatched by males. And see, oh, I see, okay, I found it immediately. Unfed, fed, unfed, fed, and unfed, fed, we see a large difference. This is almost a 50% improvement, okay? From 200 times 1.5 would be 300. Okay, so that's a huge improvement. But look at this over here, from 125 to 150, that's not even a that's more than a 10% improvement. Okay, that's more than a 10% improvement. It's not more than a 20% improvement. I think I'm just bad at mental math right now. But yeah, but it's not a huge improvement. So that makes sense, because the males we didn't change the number of males. We only changed the amount we're feeding. Okay, and that is perfectly aligned with what the passage was talking about. Now I have this beautiful, beautiful map of the passage. Okay, if I actually, as a challenge, I always when I'm coaching a student, I always tell them, hey, I want you to take at least one test, okay, where you just read the passage, and then you stop looking at the passage. You just read the passage to the best of your ability, then you just stop looking at it and see how many questions you can get right without looking back at it. Okay, it's something that I recommend that you guys try as well. Okay, read the passage, just then be like, I'm done. I am no longer allowed to look back at the passage. Okay, and then just see how many you can get just from reading it once. It's a good way to test how good you are at reading. I have a beautiful map right now in my head of passage. I know the breakdown already. Okay, we introduce the species. We talk about how only the largest male and female breed. Then we start positing reasons why. 3 reasons: sites, food, and males. And then we say, oh, okay, sites is not a big deal because they actually just replace it with their own. And then food, that's kind of a big deal. Okay, the clutches get larger. The clutches that are laid get larger. And then number 3, males. Oh, that's kind of a big deal because even though the clutches get laid larger, the number that actually hatch doesn't change that much because the number of males didn't change. Okay. And then at the end it said, oh, and this has further implications for other mammals. In fact, there was a study on mammals. I'm literally, I know I can look at the screen right here where my passage is, but I'm not looking at the screen. I'm looking at the camera. I'll look at the camera now, but I'm looking at a different part of the screen. And then so by the last paragraph, all it's saying is that there's implications. They've tested it in other mammals, social mammals. So the implication is that it might be generalizable to all social species. Okay, I literally remember the entire fucking passage. I just cursed. I'm just trying not to curse. But I remembered the entire passage, okay? And yes, I kind of cheated because I read this 2 weeks ago, right? So this is actually my second time reading it or whatever, but you should be able to do something similar to this. You should be able to do something similar to this, not quite to this detail, but you should be able to do something similar to this after reading it only once, okay? And it takes me about 6 minutes to read a passage. So sometimes 5, but aiming at 6 is I think 5, which is I think longer than most of you guys are reading the passage because most kids rush through the passage. But yes, it takes me about 6 minutes, and I remember the whole thing. And that's generally true when I'm taking the test. Okay, that's a lot of talk about reading and not enough talk about questions. So let's get into the questions. Here we go. The main purpose of the passage is to prediction. Explore 3 reasons and knock out one of them. Okay, 3 reasons for reproductive suppression in these fish. Link between nope, not in social mammals. Okay, not only paternal care. That's only number 3. Cost benefit. That's totally wrong. Yes, factors plural. Yes, D. Oh, God, this is so buggy. You have to click it twice, which is so unintuitive. Okay, moving on. 22, which choice best, and I'm not even looking at the passage anymore, right? I'm going to try to do as many of these without even looking at the passage. Just like I told you. Why is this not zooming out? Yo, this site is so ghetto. Okay. Okay, I you know what? This is just stupid technical issues. Here, I'll just work with this. Even though it's a little small, just follow along. Which choice best describes the overall structure? Overall structure, introduce a species and the sort of phenomenon about how only the largest ones are breeding, and then come up with 3 reasons, knock out one of them, keep 2 of them, and then show implications for other species generally. All right, let's find it. Basis of a study is introduced. Okay, so far so good. The process and findings are summarized. Okay, so far so good. And the conclusion explain the significance of the findings. Okay, I feel a little iffy. Okay, because is it a single study? Is it a single study? And I remember it said that thing about in the same study over here, okay, in the same experiment. So over here we have a field experiment was performed, and then it says in the same experiment, yeah. But over here, is this a different experiment? And it kind of sounds like it. They experimentally removed the nest site, and then here we have a field experiment with the pellets. Right, so it sounds like 2 different studies, which makes me feel iffy about a study. By the way, yes, you should be very careful with the singulars and plurals, especially for structure questions. Okay, when you're analyzing the structure of a passage, you should be paying attention to singulars and plurals. It's not some lazy thing that you get to sort of get by free on. All right, let's. So I'm going to hold off on A because that seems wrong, because the process of the study and the findings are summarized. It's like that makes it feel like we're only talking about one study, which isn't how it felt when I was actually reading it. Okay. B, characteristics of it. Yes, that's true. The findings. Yes, that's true. And a follow-up is recommended. A follow-up study is recommended. Oh, I remember I had to struggle with this. I remember I had to struggle with this on the real test, and I don't remember it recommending anything at the end. I remember talking about implications, and I remember mentioning another study, but it didn't actually recommend it. So I remember being stuck between B and some other answer choice. Let's look at C. Previous research on a topic is summarized. Current research on the same topic. Oh, wait, hang on. I just read that sort of mindlessly. You know what? Previous research was not summarized, so I'm not okay with that. Moving on. D. A hypothesis regarding species is offered. It's kind of like 3 hypotheses, honestly, but sure. Findings that challenge. Ooh, wrong. Oh. Hang on. So now we're between A and B. And I remember, oh God, this. I think I got this one right. I think right. See there's no recommendation, so I chose A. There's no recommendation. I remember being like, huh? And then I went down to the bottom, and you know what? I would actually lodge a complaint. This This is effed up because it's not fair to call okay, you know what? A is right. It's a little messed up, honestly. Okay? Because it's clear that there are 2 experiments. But I guess they are grouped in one study as a refined experimental assessment. In the word of refined experimental assessment, that kind of sort of demonstrates that. But it's the kind of thing that I think a lot of times, did we even have dates in this? We didn't, right? We didn't have years. I don't remember it. Yeah, we didn't even have years to kind of like anchor us, like how many, like in 2013, blah, 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 blah. So it felt, and I think a lot of students would naturally feel that this was multiple studies, you know, and then you would feel a little iffy about the word a study. But then you get this one little thing. It says it's one assessment of multiple research experiments, and I guess that's all one study. But I do think that the College Board could do a little better by saying the basis of a research topic, a research area by Wang and her colleagues introduced. The experiments of the study and its findings are summarized, and a conclusion explaining the significance is put forth. I think that would make it a better answer, and I would tweak it, okay, because it does feel a little iffy. But I would definitely reject B because of the word recommending a follow-up studies of other species. Let's look at this. Let's just double check, okay? Because I remember feeling iffy during the real test. Since these experiments, we've seen it. And those suggest that a resource could serve as a widespread explanation, general, okay? There's no recommendation, so that's A. Okay, and yes, A is correct. And it looks like in real time, on 2 weeks ago, I was stuck. And I think I rejected it because of the word a study. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's exact, is what I mean. Fair is fair or unfair. Who can even complain about that, right? But it's not very exact. I don't like the answer choice A. And you know what? If anyone from College Board is watching, I will announce this to you guys. This is my complaint. I don't think the wording of A is very nice. Okay, I think any student who is really sensitive to the words that are on this page over here on the left would see the process of the study and its findings are summarized, right? And feel a little iffy. Am I crazy? Am I the only one who feels this? Let me know if you also feel the same way. Okay, anyway, I chose A just now, so I sort of redeemed myself, but at least 2 weeks ago, I legitimately was confused. Question 23. The passage suggests that the factor that directly influences the rank of an individual adult is their size, how fat they are. Okay. C. Let's go. I'm shocked that this is medium. I'm shocked that that's medium. I don't know what's hard about it. I'm trying to imagine what's hard about it. Relatives. Maybe just because, kids rush their reading. So, and I guess there's a bit of an inference. Not really, though. No. We have the word subordinate. Okay. So subordinate means rank. How come this doesn't scroll? Okay. Right? The rank of an individual. Okay. The rank of an individual. And then if you look over here, you have you have this implication that if you are non-breeding, you are subordinate, okay? And then over here, you have largest. So these non-breeding subordinate females are not the largest ones, right? They're the smaller ones. Now, this is an inference question to some extent, but it's a very, very basic inference. It's not a hard inference. So I'm a little shocked that this is medium and not easy. So if you guys struggled on this question, I'm kind of curious, which ones did you choose? Did you choose A or B or D? Or maybe you still chose C, but then you were kind of stuck between B and C. So whichever one seemed kind of tempting to you, and I assume it's probably D. I think you probably would have chosen D if you didn't choose C. I can't zoom out because I don't know why I can't zoom out. Okay, here we go. But if you chose D, or if you were stuck between C and D, I'm really curious why. Okay, like what word here, logically, what was the connection for you at that time? Obviously, at that time, your logic was flawed, but what was the flawed reasoning at the time? Because I would be really curious. Okay. Also, if you get to actually explain your flawed reasoning to someone else, that actually makes you much more sensitive to the kinds of tricks that your brain is able to play on itself. So I actually encourage you, write it down there in the comments right now. Okay, write it there, write it down, and share your flawed reasoning for the world to see. That will make you a better thinker. Okay, moving on. The best evidence. So let me try to do this from memory. The best evidence. I actually just said it, the largest. So I'm not even going to look at the left side of the page. I'm going to look at the right side of the page and see if I can find it. And I assume it's going to be this within sentence. Okay, even though there's an error that doesn't tell me the line reference, it's going to be the within sentence. You know why? Because we're probably talking about within the species. And then, so let me find it. Over here within groups. So that's B. Cool. Moving on. Pew, pew, pew. Determine. So this one you actually do have to look back at the passage. There's no way to avoid that. Unless you literally remember them. To determine whether the nest sites were limiting. To determine whether food was limiting. I wasn't trying to look at the answer choices first. Determine most nearly means to confirm, to prove, to test whether, to identify. Okay, so to discover, that works. Dictate, nope. Choose, to choose it, nope. To predict, nope. They're discovering it. They're confirming it. So that's the one that's closest. So that's it. That's the one that's closest. So that's it. Based on the research, which conclusion can be most reasonably be made? I am feeling better than yesterday, but I guess I'm not feeling 100% right now. All right. Which conclusion can most reasonably be made about the average clutch size of a breeding female PX? The average clutch size of a breeding female PX is going to be affected by food and males. No, not because of the females. Maybe. It depends on the male, right? If the different male is for some reason more able... Now, this was a little strange. It seems like a pretty out there idea, but maybe. Moving on. May decrease if it becomes scarce. Food. Duh. Yeah. Food. No, and then D is no. And the reason B is not the correct answer, okay? Now, this is before me even looking at the answer. But the reason that B is not the correct answer is because it seems, in that conclusion over there, it made it sound like that the males, it's not a particular individual quality of a male that makes them able to, there's not super males, that are able to take care of lots of, they're super fathers that are able to take care of lots of eggs at the same time. It's just that males have a natural limitation because it's just like teachers. Can teachers handle a class of 10 kids? Yeah. How about 20 kids? Yeah. How about 200? Where you're having to talk to all of them and check whether they're sleeping? No, right? So there's just a natural limitation. Unless you change the technology around it, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the natural limitation. So this would suggest that males are unable to care. Exactly. So that's why it wouldn't be B. I'm going with C. Let's go. C. Next. Food. So that's the first two, that's the second two sentences, okay? The first two sentences of the second paragraph talk about the sites, and then the next two sentences of the second paragraph talk about the food. So I'm actually looking for sentence number 4 because that's the one that gives the conclusion. Like, I already know where I'm looking. I know exactly where I'm looking. I'm jumping straight to it. I'm not doing what many of you guys are doing. Many of you guys look at A and B and C and D and you cross-check all of them. Waste of time, okay? If you have a good map, it's a total waste of time. You want to just go straight. Where is it? So this is sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, and then sentence 4. Oh, and then sentence 5 actually, so I was wrong. It's actually sentence 5. Sentence 5 over here says in 32 to 35 that food is a limiting factor. Okay? So 32 to 35, and I'm just double checking. 32 to 35, there we go. That is C. Reflects. This is over here, about here is, okay, reflects. The size of a clutch at hatching reflects shows the ability of man to demonstrates the ability, something like that, yeah. So shows, demonstrates, indicates. There we go. Indicates is a better word. Cool. And that's how it should feel, guys. When you guys are doing vocab in context, you should see the word, and you should be like, "Oh yeah, that was the word I'm looking for." That's like such a good word, right? I was kind of groping at it. I was like, "Show, demonstrate." You should be able to come up with it on your own. Moving on. Moving on. The last sentence serves mainly to oh right, this is the last sentence that talks about you know what, I'm getting like intellectually a little lazy. I actually could have just predicted it without looking back. I could have, but instead I would just do it. I was in zombie mode where I was just sort of mindlessly just flipping around. Okay, avoid that. You have to learn to avoid that on the real test because that wastes time. The last sentence of the passage mainly serves to show, to suggest that this might be true of all species. Okay, let's go. That's literally my prediction right here. It's just a longer version of my prediction right here. It's B. I didn't even look at A and C and D. I already know it's B. All right. I mean, I briefly looked at A, but then I eliminated A very quickly. I didn't actually explain it to you guys as I was doing it, but I briefly looked at these words and I was like, oh no, it's not indicating further research questions. And I started reading B and I realized that is exactly my prediction. Moving on. See, that says medium, but that shouldn't be medium. That shouldn't be. It shouldn't be hard for you guys if you read it in the first place. Unfed feed. I actually remember this. It's 200, right? Because it goes from 200 to 300. Let me just double check. Unfed laid 200. That's true. So it's D. The mean number of eggs. Which statement is best supported? Males have a natural limit to how many eggs they can handle. So basically what that's saying is there's, just because there's more hatched eggs, more laid eggs doesn't mean that there's going to be that many more hatched eggs. A little bit of an increase, but not a huge increase. Oh, that's okay, but this is actually talking about the numbers. No, 150 and 200 seems too high, right? Because they were much smaller numbers, right? Oh no, 150 for the Fed. Okay. Okay, so that's A. That's A. Okay, moving on. And now we're on passage 4. All right, that's passage 4. I'm going to take a quick break, just because I'm noticing I am still a little tired. So, quick break, and I'll sort of refresh myself. That was a medium high difficulty, but not an extremely high difficulty science passage. But I struggled on it in real time 2 weeks ago because I got stuck on the word laid versus hatched, and that slowed down my reading. Also, I got stuck on that second question on the structure of the passage because I was really confused by that study thing versus the recommendation thing, right? So, and I kind of tricked myself into thinking that the last sentence was a recommendation, even though it wasn't, right? So that kind of messed me up on the third passage in real time during like 2 weeks ago when I actually took the test. But I would not say that in an objective sense that was actually a very hard passage. It was a harder passage, but not a very, very hard passage. So we can move on now to everyone's favorite, the history passage, after a quick 5-minute break. I'm gonna put up a little intermission. Be right back. 4:10. All right. Okay. I'm good. I'm good. So I'm about to get into the fourth passage, and I'm hoping to finish the fifth passage also in the next 50 minutes. I don't think I'll be able to get into the writing today, so we'll push that till tomorrow. But I want to do a quick review. I actually spent quite a long time explaining the process of reading and the sort of like know-how and like little tricks or little diagnostics that you can do, that you can perform on yourself. I'm just wondering, was that helpful for you guys? If that was, I would really like to hear it, because if I know what's helpful, then I can be more confident next time on explaining exactly what you guys need to hear. Because when I'm doing this on YouTube, it's not the same as class. Like, I can't see your faces, so it's really hard to know what is good for you guys and what it isn't. So yeah, I just like to hear that from any of you guys, if you're so willing to just like type a couple words. It helps me out a lot, just not just psychologically, but also just in terms of this content, that the content that I'm producing should actually increase in quality over time with the help of your feedback. So yeah, please let me know. All right, we're about to move into the fourth passage. Let's go, history. And I like how it just says hard right away. But anyway, let's not dwell on that. Let's get into the passage. Here we go. A plea for free speech in Boston, 1860. Frederick Douglass, very prominent African-American abolitionist. Yeah. So if you don't know who he is, it seems like it would be like your U.S. history would be a little weak. So just know that if you wanna be a top scoring U.S. Sort of American politics and history / American literacy person, you should at least know who Frederick Douglass is. Moving on, the world knows. Oh, so quick prediction. Hey, a plea for free speech in Boston. Obviously, with him being an African-American abolitionist, the kind of plea that he would be making would be the free speech. Not obviously. It's only obvious in retrospect because I have actually read it now. But even when I didn't read it, even when it was my first time seeing this passage, okay, I can make a pretty high confidence prediction at this point. Oh, okay. Apparently, the voices of black people are being suppressed. So let's find out what, or at least abolitionist voices are being suppressed. So let's go and find out the argument. I don't know what kind of suppression there would be. Realistically, when I had never read this before, I wouldn't really know what kind of suppression there would be. But if you're making a plea, a plea is a sort of strong word. It's like a desperate plea, right? It has a tenor of help, of desperation, of urgency. So you would you would be able to know a lot from just that blurb. Moving on. Last Monday, the meeting of abolitionist meeting was invaded by a mob of gentlemen and broken up by the mayor, who refused. So I see, who refused. Right. We asked the mayor previously to protect the meeting, maybe with policemen, but the mayor refused, and then the mob came in, and then so basically the mayor had to send the police anyway. If this was just the baser sort of people, okay, some politicians just being just like appealing to the sort of the lowest common denominator with like populist arguments, just riling up people's anger, right? Then maybe it wouldn't be very special, you know. We could just call it an exceptional affair. We can kind of ignore it. Maybe it wouldn't be something to worry about, is what I mean. But actually, the problem is these were the intelligent, the refined, the socially secure gentlemen. Okay, these people were talking about law and order, and they were breaking it up. So we're talking about a certain type of hypocrisy. They brought the respect and proclaimed it loudly while breaking the law. Theirs is the law of slavery, and they actually break the law of free speech and protection of public meetings. Okay. So we're talking about a sort of irony here, hypocrisy, where these gentlemen, these established people that we would expect more from, are actually trampling. Okay, they're trampling free speech underfoot. Okay. No right was deemed by the fathers more sacred. This is the most sacred thing. The great moral renovator of society is it. What is it? This free speech. Okay, free speech is the great moral renovator of society. Called it, free speech, a homebred right, a fireside privilege. Okay, liberty is meaningless when free speech doesn't exist. Free speech is very important. Free speech is the dread of tyrants. Okay, so it is a renovator, and it is the solution to tyrants. Okay, because if through free speech men are allowed to reason about what is good, okay, and then that is going to overthrow tyrants, overthrow bad rule. Free speech is very important. Now we have a transition. Slavery cannot tolerate free speech. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but that is a transition. Okay, if you didn't notice, we're just talking about how important free speech is. Okay, the fathers considered it more sacred, the most sacred thing, and now here we're talking about slavery within the context of free speech. If we had true free speech for 5 years, we would actually be banishing slavery altogether because it's so bad. So of course, the people in power will not have any of it here. Hang on, let me make sure. I'm kind of jumping too quickly, maybe. 5 years. Oh, okay, yeah. There, I see. We're making a contrast between there, the South, versus here, Boston. So we're not only appealing to the sort of higher expectations that we have of the gentleman, but we're actually appealing to Bostonian sense of themselves. Hey, guys. You are Bostonians. You are Northerners. You respect the Constitution. They will not have it in the South because they have power, and they will, they want to hold on to slavery, and so of course they will not let people freely talk about slavery, its rightness or wrongness. Right? They won't let it be spoken about. But you, et tu, Brutus. You too, Boston. This is the special sort of appeal to the sense of Bostonians of themselves. Even here in Boston, where we shouldn't have this, okay, we have two voices. One voice denounces the mob, but there's this other voice. They regret the meeting itself. They're telling us, oh, it was not wise to have the meeting. You know what they're doing? They're excusing the mob. It's like, oh, the mob was going to attack you. You guys shouldn't have met in the first place. But obviously, here's my prediction. Frederick Douglass is having none of that. Okay, he's going to be like, no, free speech is the important thing, not us being wise or unwise. Okay, we're not talking about tactics right now. We're talking about who should be allowed to speak. Everybody should be allowed to speak. So just because you think it's unwise for us to do something that other people are going to be upset by, what's genuinely unwise is when these other people who are upset start destroying our right to free speech by coming and creating a mob. Okay, that is what's unwise. So that's the flip side of this argument here. Here we go. Why? What is the matter with us in Boston? Are we going to excuse this outrage on free speech by implying that only gentlemen should exercise, or what does, maybe not gentlemen, but only certain types of people should be able to have free speech? Okay, right now, when a great principle, as in when free speech has been struck, okay, when we have attacked free speech, are we going to quench the anger that the striking excites? Okay, so basically, when this mob struck down free speech, we naturally got morally indignant. And are we going to quench our indignation right now? Are we going to be satisfied right now by casting reflections, okay, by criticizing the victims? Very hard sentence. I would rank this in like the sort of top, on the SAT, I would rank this in like the top 5% of difficult sentences. Okay, but basically, even if so, realistically, I don't recommend that you actually spend enough time to fully understand this. At least if don't spend more than definitely don't spend more than 30 seconds to try to understand this. It's not worth it. You should just get the gist that from here, okay, from here, we're talking about only certain people having the right, and from here, you know how it says, casting reflections upon those persons, upon those on whose persons the outrage has been committed. Just kind of get the idea that the outrage is the mob, and they have committed an outrage by breaking up the right of the people to speak. But which people? Okay, the people who want to speak, and we're gonna attack the people who want to speak. If you can kind of roughly get that idea, I think that'd be good enough. Honestly, you don't need to be 100% sure. Then moving on, after all the arguments for liberty to which Boston has listened for more than a quarter of a century. So this is the special status of Boston, right? Hey, Boston of all places should definitely know this. Have we yet to learn that when the right itself is being attacked is the best time to actually defend that right? Okay, we can't defend free speech when it's already dead. You have to be defending it when it's being attacked. And of course we, the African Americans and the abolitionists, we are the ones who are going to assert it. We have to defend that. We have to defend it. So that's the general idea over here. That's a harder paragraph than the other ones. It would not vindicate the right of speech if we just proved that only certain gentlemen were allowed to have it. Okay? Of course not. Free speech would not be true free speech if only a certain percentage of society, or only white people in society, or only pro-slavery people could have it. If only pro-slavery people had freedom of speech and all the anti-slavery people didn't have freedom of speech, that would be horrible. That's not freedom of speech. That's actually like the exact problem that freedom of speech is supposed to fix. Such a vindication would need to be vindicated. Okay, so this is being kind of clever here. If you've vindicated free speech by giving it only to white gentlemen, then you, honey, need some help. Okay, you need to be saved. It would add insult to injury. Not even an old-fashioned abolition meeting could vindicate that right in Boston just now. Oh, I remember getting this one wrong. Okay, not even an old-fashioned abolition meeting could vindicate that awkward vindication. This is like a weird little joke, not joke, but like obviously it's not a joke. He's upset, but it's a weird bit of wordplay here. Here we go. But just what we're saying is that all of this is still one idea, though, just to make sure. The vindication by giving only white gentlemen the ability to speak is itself in need of vindication, and nothing could vindicate that vindication. Okay, nothing could vindicate that vindication. Is basically, if I like fully draw out what this like argument is, nothing could vindicate that vindication. It's impossible to vindicate that vindication. Not even an old-fashioned meeting could vindicate it, right? So basically, if I simplify it to sort of simple words, it is unjust to only allow white gentlemen to speak freely. Nothing can justify this. There can be no right of speech where any man is overawed by force, right? There can be no right of speech if other people have fear when they speak. Ooh, interesting connection. So here we talk about Boston herself. Okay, we're focusing on the right of speech. Here we're talking about how it's sort of hypocritical to only give it to a certain type of people, and then here we're moving on to the right to hear. To suppress free speech is a double wrong, because not only does it hurt the speaker, it hurts the hearer. It violates their rights. Oh, and then transition. I believe in Boston, but hey, let us give no concessions, okay? Don't blame us for holding the meeting, okay? That's a concession. No, blame them for violating free speech. The principle must rest on its own, okay? We can't put all these conditions on it. It's just what it is. And until even the humblest, the poor, the black, the disempowered, until the humblest can speak, we're all bullshit. This is all bullshit. Okay? We're just blowing smoke up Boston's ass right now. A man's right to speak does not depend upon where he was born or upon his color. It is just a right. Cool. Good argument. I'm not particularly moved by the language, but yeah, it's a good argument. It's just arguing how, you can't blame the people whose right of speech was taken away, and you can't only give the right of speech to the people with power, to the gentlemen of a certain type of look. You must give it to everybody, okay? And yes, you should blame the mob. You should blame the mob. You should criticize the mob, not us. Free reach is a right that extends to everybody. I guess A kind of makes sense, but that doesn't seem like. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was directly stated, but sure, that's basically true. Extended to everybody. Must be used. It's not necessary to be. No. We're not talking about how to use free speech. Is not frequently. We're not generalizing about the American public and how frequently it is. Maybe if you got rid of the word frequently, and if it just said, is not appreciated by the Bostonian public, or by half of the Bostonian public, right? Because it talked about how there's 2 voices in Boston, then it could be kind of correct, but that's pretty far off. Most often abused. No. We're not talking about free speech being abused. We're not talking about when free speech goes bad. We're talking about when free speech is deprived. Okay? So we're not talking about how it's abused. So it's A. It says hard, but I don't know. I feel like that one should be more towards medium, just because you have to focus on the modality. You know, what does he think should be the case, right? He doesn't specifically say people should stop abusing. He doesn't think that. No, and he doesn't think we should use it. And he thinks this will naturally just happen. He doesn't think we must use it this way, okay? He doesn't put a more moral constraint around it. He just says everyone should have it. So this one shouldn't be that hard if you just predict the answer right away and stick with prediction. Exceptional affair most nearly means, this is the first paragraph, and it would be an exceptional affair, something that we can sort of just, okay, we can just sort of look over this. We can just like overlook this one, all right? Because it's just this weird thing that happened once, right? That's an exceptional affair. So brilliant, famous, surprising, isolated. Okay, I would have gone isolated. Hang on. Because, let me just make sure, because it's just this one thing that happens that you can kind of let it go, okay? And I remember that this actually got mentioned on Reddit thread multiple times, but it has to be isolated because, let's look at the evidence. In the first paragraph, we could, if this had been a mere outbreak of passion and prejudice among the baser sort, hounded on. It's just a mere. So the fact that it's mere means it can't be surprising. It's just so you know. It might be allowed to rest with what has. Yeah. So one thing that might be. One thing that might help, and this oftentimes. Like with these like word choices, sometimes you kind of get stuck in like a very strange like definition. Like you start twisting the definitions of the words to kind of match the passage, but that's very dangerous. Okay, because it can kind of you can kind of get far, depending on how creative you are. You can get pretty far from the actual meaning of these 2 words. Okay, so one way to make sure that you stay grounded is just think, what is the opposite of a surprising occurrence? A mundane, sort of everyday occurrence. Okay, so does that mean that in his case, so now you have to go proof by contradiction, a surprising thing is something that we can just sort of look over, but if it was a mundane thing, would we look over it, right? And then would Frederick Douglass be like, no, we cannot look over mundane things, but we can look over surprising things? Like, think about it in those terms, and that should sound very wrong to you. Whereas over here in D, oh yeah, Frederick Douglass is saying we can look over the isolated incident because it's just a mere exceptional affair where a politician was taking this to be expedient, right? Taking this sort of course of action to be expedient with his aims, right? Sure, whatever. But if it's not an isolated incident, if it's a sort of common, like a built into Boston kind of incident that's sort of fundamentally spread out and common to Boston, then no, we should not look over it. And that's what he's saying. This is sort of built into Boston. The gentlemen think that we, the weak, the African Americans, the the abolitionists, we aren't even allowed to speak. This is like entrenched in the people who believe in law and order. Okay, so that's why the isolated incident should be the correct answer. Now that I explained it all, I'd be shocked if I'm wrong, but I'm going with D. Okay. That would have been, I got nervous for a second. But yes, my reasoning was That's exactly, I think, the reason you should be using. Okay, think about the opposite of what it means. Okay, if you get stuck in those words. The original founders believed that free speech is the most sacred. Here we go. Nope, should not be. Nope. This is about how they whether they actually ensured it. No. Oh yeah. This is the great reformer. The great reformer. No, not individuals. So the great reformer. This happens in like the second sentence of this first passage of the second paragraph. No, third paragraph. The great moral renovator, not reformer, but renovator. But yeah, renovation. Moral renovation of society. Oops, sorry, I didn't even double check but yes, it's C. Q, so 35. Banish and break in line 30. Primarily serve to 5 years of the exercise of free speech would banish the auction block and break the chain, every chain in the South, every chain of slavery in the South. Okay, mainly serves to, and I would just say something about emphasize the force that the power that free speech has. Okay, the power of free speech is that it would actually make the good win, and it would make evil lose, and it would banish it. It would break it. It would make it. It would be a very powerful way of doing it. It would drive it out. Potency, as it means, yes. B is correct. I saw the word potent. I didn't even look at all this other stuff. I just saw the word potency because naturally my eye jumped to it because I was thinking of power, like of force, So intensity, maybe, but not of the struggle to safeguard it. That wouldn't be right. But potency of doing good, of breaking slavery, breaking the chains of slavery. Okay. It shouldn't take you long to get this answer. Yes, it says medium, but it shouldn't take you long as you read this. You read the question, you read the original text because you need it, and then you make a guess before you even look at the answer choices. Just make a guess. Okay, what does it mean? It's like banish and break, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's serving to do what? Okay. Now, if you are struggling to guess on this kind of question, if you're struggling to predict on this kind of question, it means that you are bad at rhetorical purpose. I almost used the wrong word, but anyway, you are bad at rhetorical purpose in the sense that you don't know what kinds of things analytical people normally say when we say mainly serves to. Mainly serves to. So when it says mainly serves to, what do you have a good vocabulary for describing what a certain sentence mainly serves to do? If you don't, it's the same as like geometry. Do you have a good vocabulary for describing what's happening with triangles or angles? If you don't, then you need to work on your geometry. Okay, do you have a good vocabulary then for describing what happens with rhetorical purpose? Okay, when a sentence is serving to do something else. If you don't, then you don't work on that. But just because you can't predict the answer doesn't mean that you just have to go straight into answer choices and start guessing. No, that's not how you would do it in math, right? You wouldn't just be like, oh, I don't know what the three angles are supposed to sum up to. I should just guess by using the answer choice. No, you would actually go and learn it. You would learn how triangles work, right? So do the same thing in reading. 36. Strongly suggests that people who criticize the timing and wisdom of the meeting are hypocrites. Look, guys, you can't excuse the people who broke up the meeting because they are the ones that are trampling on free speech. Here, they're not regretful. They are unknowingly aiding the mob. Yeah, this is the part that's really hard to defend. Okay, I don't even in my map of the passage. Okay, I just reread this once. Right, I read it once 2 weeks ago. I'm reading again once. I don't remember this part at all. Like, we don't know anything about them. Hypocritical, yeah. No, but they did not initially encourage. Okay, so that's wrong. Complicit, yeah. You are enabling. Because you're suggesting that it's conditional. Yeah. You're saying that these privileged gentlemen can come and break up our meeting, and so therefore we need to find a better timing? You're saying that our right to free speech is conditional on them being happy? Right? So that's totally correct. Remorseful. Did I not predict the answer here? Oh no, I did predict the answer. I predicted it. It's a little, so this is a little different from my prediction. That's why I got a little lost for a second. But yeah, I predicted that they're being hypocritical because they're actually saying that they're sort of excusing the actions of the people who are breaking the right of speech, right? And that's a little different from this. Like that's similar to this part, the most violations of free speech, but I focus on like hypocritical, and then they're focusing on complicity, which is kind of different. Moving on. But anyway, it's still the same. It's still true though. The author still seems to be thinking this, and they're not. We don't know anything about their emotional state. So yes, it's C. Pew, pew, pew. 37. Let's go. Best evidence. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. I can't think of the evidence within 1 second. The best evidence would probably be in the third paragraph or fourth paragraph, where we start talking about how, like, there are two voices, and then we talk about how. Okay, you know what? Let me go and look at the previous question and just see the wording. Okay. They suggest that it's conditional, and so they are complicit. Okay, so et tu Brutus, right? I'm looking for that. You too? You also think that we should not be allowed to speak unless they are happy? So you are part of the problem. Okay, not the et tu Brutus. That's actually a bad way of phrasing it. So I'm going to cancel that. It's like they too are a problem. I need to find the part where it kind of says they too are a problem, and I can't remember it just from my map right now, but I do know that it's going to be, if it's on paper, it would be normally on like the bottom left of the, like there's two columns, right? It's probably closer to like the bottom left, so maybe like towards 30 over here, but no, there's still background, so I'm looking here. Okay, two voices, all right, and we are told, okay, cool. And why? What is the matter with us? Are we going to excuse this? And then this is 39 to 43. Seems like the right answer, honestly. Seems like the right answer. Oh, and see, look at these answer choices. Hey, I didn't even look at it. But look, these are so far. These are the A and B can't be right because that's not even. We're too far from even. We're not even talking about them yet. Yeah, and 57, 60 can't be right because it's just too. This is just my argument as Frederick Douglass. This is not me characterizing them. So it has to be C, just from like literally just from location. So let's see. Move it. Any other thing that I can say about this? Yeah, I mean, the excuse is really excuse by implying. Excuse by implying is the really useful part. Just I was trying to be more targeted with the part that's actually working, but we're excusing the violation of speech, so we're actually on their side. We're being complicit because we're implying, right, that it's conditional. So that's how it directly matches up with C. All right, moving on. 38. The passage most strongly suggests that Douglas's criticism of Boston's response to the invasion of the meeting is based partly on his assumption that its citizens okay. I got lost because of all these prepositional phrases. There's like 2 of them or 3 of them of Boston's response to the invasion of the meeting, right? But we're talking about the criticism. The criticism is based partly on his assumption that the citizens of Boston, okay, should know the value of free speech. Why? Because here at the bottom, even here in Boston, right? But over here, after all of the arguments of liberty for more than a quarter of a century, right? We of all cities should know, okay? Should understand the importance of upholding freedom when its existence threatened. Yeah. That's basically right. With the mob, nope. 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 Say. Oh, and I already had the evidence. Let's see, where was it? We of people over here. Nope, not over here. Over here. No, over here somewhere. After all the arguments to which we have listened, 45 to 50. That is this. Okay, and everything else from 54 and all this is way too late. We're not talking about Boston anymore right there. So I'm basically certain. I'm not even going to double check all the other ones. This is how I save time, by the way. I spend a little more time on the reading, but I save time on the questions because I already know. I'm so confident when I'm choosing these answers. I don't need to double check A and B and C and D, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, 4 times. That's way too much time. Okay. It's also way more stressful when you go back and forth like that, like not even knowing what the answer is, not predicting what the answer is, just sort of like hoping you get the answer by process of elimination for every single question. I try to use process of elimination less than twice per passage. Okay, just because I want to be 100% sure what the right answer is every time. I want to be not 100%, like 90% sure what the right answer is for 90% of questions. I want to be very, very sure. So I don't like going through like process elimination all the time. All right, here we go. 40. The main purpose of the sentence 56, 57 is to I'm just zoning out right now. You know what? This might have to be my last passage today. I'm starting to like poop out. 56, 57. Here we go. The main passage is to, oh, right, this one. Not even an old, I actually got this one wrong on my first time, but I don't remember what I chose anymore, so I have to look at it again. Not even an old-fashioned abolition meeting could vindicate that right in Boston just now. No, I do remember now. Okay, so here we go. Highlight the degree to which has suffered. Okay, this is the right answer. I'll explain why. But first, let me explain my prediction again, my correct prediction, okay, not my incorrect thought at the time. I actually think I probably would have been able to get this right if I spent one more minute rereading this paragraph slowly without hurrying, and then just predicting the answer to this question over here by rereading this part. Okay, and I'll do it right now for you guys. It would be no vindication to only allow certain privileged people to speak about slavery. This vindication is false. It's unjustifiable. It would be insulting. Nothing could justify. Not even an old-fashioned abolition meeting could justify that injustice. Okay, of letting only certain privileged people speak. That's what it means. So the main purpose of this sentence is to emphasize how unjust it is to only let certain people speak. Okay? And the closest answer to this is this. The degree to which the ability to speak freely in Boston has suffered. Right? Not even an old-fashioned meeting could vindicate this because it's so messed up. It's so unjust to only let certain people speak, and those people can just like willy-nilly break up other people's right to free speech. That's messed up. It's a high degree. It's a very high degree that it has suffered. Okay? So that will be the prediction, and that will be how I connect the answer. Look at B and C and D. They're all incorrect. Let's go. Indicate that political meetings in Boston require all speakers to... Not even... What? Suggest that explorations were more intense during... This... You know what? There is sort of that suggestion. There is that sort of that suggestion, but the question is that the main purpose? Did you predict the answer to this question? The main purpose of this sentence is to suggest something about history? No. The main purpose of that sentence, okay, this is a rhetorical purpose question, by the way, even though it's phrased a different way. It instead of says serving primarily to, it says the main purpose is to, right? But it means the same thing. The rhetorical purpose of that little sort of clever sentence is to emphasize how unjust it is that the mob gets to speak, but we don't. That's all it's doing. Okay, that's the main purpose. So if the question didn't say the main purpose, if it said one effect of the sentence is to suggest, then C could be correct. If it said one effect, but it doesn't say one effect, it says the main purpose. Okay, and the SAT, the College Board, is very deliberate about these questions. So we're not just looking at one effect, we're looking at the main purpose. And D, convey nostalgia. No. No. So this is a medium difficulty question. It's pretty hilarious that I chose C because you know what? Because my prediction was just weird. I don't think I made the right prediction. Yep. Oops. 42. Here we go. 41. Let me just make sure, because I kind of double clicked on the previous one. Okay. 41. Here we go. It is necessary that they have a sense of security, that they feel safe, they don't feel fear. It's at the very bottom. Oh, here we go. There can be no right of speech when they are overawed by force and compelled to be silent. Okay? Oh, that's D. The hard part of D is it says public forum, and it's like, does he specifically want public forum? So first, that they do not feel threatened is pretty clear, okay? But a public forum, it's the problem with the word public forum is it's not. It might be a definitional problem. Okay, for you guys, when you say public forum, you might be thinking of like an actual stage or like a coliseum or like a platform, right? But in the actual usage of the word public forum, we sometimes just mean generally being able to speak publicly. So it says a public forum, but we're not talking about something specific. Okay, it's just a way, idiomatic English. People tend to use the idea of the public forum as a very general concept. So that's the reason why D might be awkward for you guys. So that's less of a logical reasoning problem. Okay, if you didn't choose D because of the word public forum, that's probably more of a usage problem, definitions and usage problem. Okay, some of you guys, especially those who are international, okay, and your English is not necessarily your first language, you have a very sort of translated English, right? It's like publicly, forum, a place for talking, right? Public forum, right? You might be translating the words instead of thinking about how it's actually used, and so. Or when I say thinking about, I mean recalling how it's actually being used, okay? But the word public forum actually gets used in a sort of generic sense as well. So it would be D. Pew, pew. It would be so embarrassing if I actually confidently reconstruct my reasoning and then it turns out I'm wrong. Anyway, let's keep going. Because, by the way, guys, I literally did not read this before doing this stream. I'm doing this all right now in real time. So, yes, I could be making mistakes right now. Okay, 63, 64. Mainly serves to. Here we go. It is money. It is money. Yeah. Oh, I actually don't remember. Did I read this kind of quickly? I don't remember this. Oh, it would be criminal. Right. Yeah, okay. So it's just a quick little. Yeah, mainly serves to emphasize how criminal it is to not let somebody speak. Okay, here we go. Oh, yeah, B. So, I mean, I don't think I even need to. I'm not even going to double check all the other ones. Yeah, it's just B. It's just, yeah, it's criminal. It's criminal to not let people speak in here. Just like it's criminal to let somebody rob. The main purpose of the fourth paragraph is to... Oh, sorry, it's a new passage. All right, and now it's 4:55. I have 5 minutes before I have to go off to something else. So today, I wasn't able to do the fifth passage. I was only able to cover passage 3 and passage 4. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I'll work on the timestamps, like not today, but maybe tomorrow or something when I finish off the reading, and I will put timestamps in all the videos so you can follow along. Let me know if you did watch this video and what parts of it were helpful, were not like just anything that was really helpful for you that kind of will like stick in your memory. Please write it down in the comments. If you just write it down, there's a sort of double benefit. Okay, the first benefit is obviously it helps me to know what's working, but secondly, it also helps you to sort of remember what you're learning as you're watching my videos. So I think that's definitely worth like the 30 seconds or whatever you spend just like coming up with the words to summarize what you learned, and then like convey it to me and let me know that something I'm doing is actually helping someone out there. So guys, please like leave me some comments. You know, I thirst for your comments. I'm kidding. And guys, good luck with your studies. Okay, we'll be getting, you know, I'm sort of recovering from my sort of weekendless weekend, and I'm getting back into my groove. So I'm looking forward to doing more of these streams, and I'll try to find some way of being consistent with the streaming and stuff. I feel like a lot of you guys are finding me a lot more than I was expecting. So I want to be doing good by you. Yeah, so if you guys haven't already, you know, hit subscribe and leave me comments on what works for you. And if you want to be able to communicate with me on like and know my schedule in advance and maybe ask questions to me or to each other about, you know, other parts of the passage you had, other parts of the test that you're struggling with, or things about studying that you're struggling with, you know, I do have a Discord server that you can just jump into. It's fairly quiet, you know, because it's a small server, and it's basically all based on how much activity I put into it. But I would love it if you know, we could create a community of people who are less scared of putting themselves out there and actually willing to help each other out. You know, and I would obviously be one of them. I would be one of the people that be helping out to the best of my abilities. So yeah, I invite you to the Discord server. And guys, I know you guys are busy. You guys have not just the SAT, but your APs or your IBs or whatever other test you're going for. It's getting close to the end of the year. You must be stressed out, but hey, keep growing. Okay, keep growing. The scores will follow. I'll see you guys in the next one.